Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name's Gretchen and today I am here to do the end of the year book tag. This is a video that I've been seeing a lot of booktubers doing, and I kind of went down a rabbit hole the other day watching them, and I thought this is really fun, and I thought that I would go ahead and do this tag as well. Now, this tag was originally created by Ariel Bissett, but I heard about it through Ben at Ben Reads Good, and I'll link his video for this tag below as well. And it really got me thinking about the end of the year and how we kind of get to that point where we're wrapping up everything and kind of reflecting on how my year has gone and whether or not I'm satisfied with it, whether or not there's any last minute things that I personally need to do. So it was really good to have that reminder, and I really love that this video and tag exists because it kind of forced me to think about all of those things to help get myself organized for the end of the year. So this is a relatively small tag video considering there are only 6 questions, so let's go ahead and jump right into them. So the first question is, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? Yeah, of course there are. I am not a monogamous reader by any stretch of the word. I am in and out of books all throughout the year, and there are a handful that I am still trying to get through before the end of the year comes around. Now, first and foremost, there is one left over from the Women's Prize that I am still reading. I'm getting very close to finishing, and that is A Trace of Sun by Pam Williams. I don't know why it is taking me so long to read this book. I like this book. I'm enjoying it very much, but every time I pick it up, it's just I read a couple pages and then I get distracted, or something happens and I put it back down and then I forget about it, and then a couple weeks later I realize, oh, I want to pick up that book again, and it's just taking me forever. And I don't want anybody to think that it has anything to do with the book. Like I said, I'm enjoying it, and actually I think it's a fantastic book, but for some reason it's just taking me forever. So I definitely need to prioritize this one and get it done. I have less than 100 pages to go, and it shouldn't take me very long. What I really need to do is just set aside an afternoon and just sit down for an hour or so and just bang the rest of it out. So another book that I need to get to is my project book for the year. So every year I challenge myself to read a really big classic that I have been meaning to get to for ages. Last year I read Don Quixote over the course of a year, and I really enjoyed my time with that. So I decided this year I was going to read another chunker, and this year was Les Mis. Now, I have made really good progress with this. I just need to once again hunker down and power through to get through this by the end of the year. This book is a beast. It is a brick. It is probably actually even heavier than a brick, but the story is fantastic. I will say that there are a lot of sections of this book that are slower than others. It gets into a lot of historical detail, which is something that I enjoy, but it is also a distraction to the story. This is an instance where I know a lot about the story, or at least I should say the outline or the shell of the story, because I have seen the musical several times. I have seen the movie, so I kind of know where the story is going to go, but it's all those extra bits that are getting filled in that are kind of distracting me from the main plot of the story. So once again, it's something that's taking me a little longer to get through, but I know that I can do it, so there will be a focus on that. The other book that I'm hoping to finish by the end of the year is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. This is a book that I picked up for the first time a few weeks ago. I am absolutely loving it, but once again, it's another really big book and it's a slower paced read, so it's taking me a little longer to get through. I'm loving the story, but I should not have any problem finishing this book by the end of the year. And then sadly, there is one other one that I am in the middle of that I need to prioritize, and that is The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. Now, this was a book that was Jess over at Stalking Kafka. She did a read along and I was participating in it, but life completely got away from me and I ended up not following the schedule for that, and I got behind and I never fully committed myself to the rest of it. And it's a shame because if you've ever participated in one of Jess's reading groups, they are a whole lot of fun. I am going to still go back once I finish it to kind of listen to all of the comments that users were leaving and read them through as well. But I was enjoying my time with the book. It was just, once again, life got in the way. And most of the time, these books that are taking me longer to get through, it usually has nothing to do with the book being bad. It's usually just because I am a mood reader and I easily get distracted. I'm a magpie in that sense, and I really just need to focus and stop getting distracted by all of these other books that are around me, because that's very easy for me to do. So those are the books that I need to prioritize that I've already started for the end of the year. Now, the next question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? Now, I just started watching videos about this tag, so it's a little late to talk about an autumnal transition, but I will say there were some books that I did use this year to transition from my summer reading into my autumnal reading. The first one is going to be The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I had never read this book before, and I swear I was the only one, so I finally decided to prioritize that this year, and I am so glad I did. I loved this story, although I think that it was a little longer than it needed to be. I love the concept of dark academia. I loved all of the characters, but I mean, I hated the characters, but I loved that I hated them. And there was a lot of just really sinister and just wrong stuff going on in this book. And it just showed how, you know, evil people can be. And I just really enjoyed my time spent with this. And because it was an academic setting, I always think of fall whenever I think of academia, you know, September, going back to school, starting university, and this was a really good transition book for me. And now I can finally say that I've read it and not be the only one in the conversation that has yet to pick this book up. And then the other book was more of a fun kind, I don't want to say lighthearted because it's not lighthearted, it's not the subject matter, but this to me just felt a lot less serious than a book like The Secret History, and that is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. I had read this I had seen the movie years and years ago, and I remember enjoying it, and this just felt so Halloween themed to me. It's about sisters who are witches, or they are considered witches by the people around them, and I had a lot of fun with this read. I actually haven't seen the movie of this for a really long time, so even though we're past the point of Halloween, I think that maybe by the end of the year I want to revisit that movie just to kind of have this book still fresh in my mind to see how they compare to each other. I already know that there were some major differences. It did pretty much follow for the most part, but I feel like there was less of a focus on Sally's romance in this book than there was in the movie. But yeah, I'm really curious to do that. So that'll be another thing for me to complete by the end of the year, which is to watch this movie. All right, moving on to question 3. Is there a new release you're still waiting for? Yes. So there's one that is major that I have been waiting for, and it has been on my radar for a while, and that is the new Haruki Murakami book, The City and Its Uncertain Walls. So I'm really looking forward to that coming out. Now, I don't plan on reading it by the end of this year, but I am really excited for it to finally be out. And then there is another one. I think that this is already available in the UK, but I'm also waiting for Private Rights by Julia Armfield to come out this year as well. I read Our Wives Under the Sea this year for the first time, and I loved that book, and I'm really curious to see what her next novel has to offer. Once again, I don't think I'm going to prioritize it to get it read by the end of this year, but I am really excited that we have a new Julia Armfield book to look forward to as well. All right, so moving on to question 4. What are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? Ooh, there are lots, but if I was forced to choose 3, I would say I want to prioritize Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, Tell Me Everything by Elizabeth Strout, and The Coast Road by Alan Murin. I wanted that book to be on the Booker long list for this year because I really wanted to read it. It didn't make the cut, but I still want to make sure that I get that read by the end of the year because I heard so many good things about it, and I don't want that to be a book that I put at the bottom of my list and forget about because I really do think that it's one I'm going to enjoy. So I would like to prioritize that for the end of the year. All right, so moving on to question 5. Is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? Honestly, I don't think so. I obviously am open to that idea. I would love for a book to come in and absolutely knock my socks off and be my favorite book of the year, but I have a favorite in mind, and I honestly don't think that there is any way that that book is going to be bumped from my top spot. And if you're following my channel, or if you have followed my channel, it's not James. So if any of you are thinking that it's James, it's not. I actually have one that I enjoyed more, and it's actually a book that will not only be a favorite for this year, I think it's honestly a book that I can say is one of my favorites of all time. So I'm excited to talk about that. I will be doing my favorite books or my favorite reads of 2024 toward the end of the year, so you'll have to wait to see what that is then. But thinking about that book and how it has impacted me and how I still think about that book all the time and how I waited so long to read it, and I had no idea that this book was so powerful. I honestly don't think that there is any book that is going to be able to knock that one out of first place. And you all know how I love James, and it was able to bump James out of my first slot. So it is a great book, and I honestly don't think, based on what I have left to read, that any of them stand a chance, but I hope that I'm wrong. But yeah, I'm gonna stick to no for the answer to that one. And the last question is, have you already started making reading plans for next year? And the answer to that is, of course, yes. So I don't think that I necessarily, because I'm a mood reader, I don't really think about specific books that I want to read at this point in time, but I'm already starting to think of bookish things that I want to make sure that I include. So of course I am going to follow book prizes. I love book prizes. You know that if you watch my channel. So I do plan on following the Women's Prize for Fiction and Nonfiction, the International Booker, as well as the Booker. I don't know if I'm going to dip into any of the other book prizes. I will likely read the Pulitzer winner if I haven't already read it. I'm hoping that that ends up being James. So we'll see if I have a book to read from the Pulitzer. I also maybe will attempt the shortlist for the National Book Award. I'm not sure about that yet, but I'm always open to literary prizes and reading what the judges out there and what these prestigious prizes consider the best books out there. So I will always be looking for those. Another thing that I am planning on doing next year is I signed up to be a judge for the BookTube Prize, which is really fun. I have silently kind of sat in the background and watched that prize unfold over the last few years, and I've watched a lot of videos about readers on that have channels that have participated as judges, and I finally decided to be brave and I have signed up for it. So I'm excited about that. I'm not sure how many rounds I will do or sign up for, but it's something I'm really looking forward to. I think that it's going to be something really rewarding. It's going to force me to read books that I might not necessarily pick up, and I'm always open to that type of reading experience because you never know whether you're gonna like a book until you read it. So I love the idea of maybe having that opportunity to read books that I would otherwise not read. I also think that it's going to be fun for some videos related to my journey with the BookTube Prize, and if any of you out there are considering it, there is still openings for judges. I think that the call for judges actually goes through, don't quote me on this, but I think through the end of the year. And I got an email a few days ago saying that they're still looking for lots of judges. So you don't necessarily have to have a channel to participate. You just have to be willing to read the books and rank them. And it's open to everyone. So if it's anything that in all that you would be interested in, I will leave the link for the video explaining the judging criteria, etc. And if it's something that you're interested in doing, please sign up for it. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. The other thing is that I will also be setting up some personal reading challenges for myself. I did that this year as well. I had something called the 24/7 365 reading challenge, and it was a way for me to set myself up to be a more diverse reader. And I have personally had so much fun doing that this year. I was really impressed with the way that I was able to stick to that and really make sure that I was reading in a way that got me out of my comfort zone and a way for me to not just stay reading the things that I know that I will like all the time, challenge myself to step outside the box. And I've had such a rewarding experience doing that this year that I am definitely going to set up some additional challenges for myself next year. Now, I think that the one that I'm really contemplating is this year I really focused on diversity and women. So the majority of the books that I read this year were by women authors. I really wanted to make sure I was being inclusive to our Black and our Asian communities, as well as our LGBTQ plus communities. And I really did, I feel, a good job of diversifying my reading. Next year, I think that I will also focus on those same things, but I really want to maybe step out of my comfort zone with genres, maybe try some fantasy, maybe try some science fiction, and see if there are any books that I end up loving out of those genres. I would really like to focus on kind of some of those quintessential classic fantasy books and sci-fi books, as opposed to maybe newer releases that are coming out. But I definitely have a whole list of classic books in those genres that I feel like I want to read, so I can join the conversation about those. So that's going to be something that I focus on next year as well. And then just another thing, I do also want to continue the reading challenges that I follow for some fellow YouTubers or booktubers. I followed Ben Reads Good's Read Good Challenge this year on Storygraph, had a blast. I read so many good books, and his prompts are great. They're really funny. And I was, like I said, I was able to find a lot of great books this year, or sought out good books based on those prompts. And then I will also follow if they do it again. I know Ben is doing his again. I'm sure that the Savage prompts will be available as well. I know that Louise and Simon Savage set out a list of prompts for a reading challenge, and I did that one through Storygraph as well. And it's very similar to Ben's in the sense that it really made me think about great prompts and the books that I wanted to read to fit them. And instead of just grabbing all of the new books that are coming out, I love the idea of having that prompt and trying to find books to fit them. And there were certain prompts where I didn't have a book on my TBR that fit it, so I had to go seek something out. And some of those were actually some of my favorite reads of this year. So it's all about challenging yourself to read outside of your comfort zone, or I should say my comfort zone. And I've really found that this past year, it has been a really rewarding experience for me. So I want to continue that. And then one other thing I do plan on doing for next year with my channel is I have really enjoyed this community so much, and I am able to interact a lot with a lot of the booktubers through comments. I watch so many of their videos and I like to interact through their comments, but I would actually like to do maybe some buddy reads with some of them and kind of get more involved with the community in general. I see all of these videos that just seem so fun, where there's crossover and you have two booktubers in one video talking about a book, or they'll have a read along or something to that effect. And that just seems like so much fun. And I've had my channel now for a year and a half, and I've pretty much stayed within my lane, but I would really like to start collaborating with some of my fellow booktubers out there for content throughout next year. So whether that's through a read along, whether it's a book club, I don't know the answer to that yet, but it is definitely something that I want to do. So if any of you out there have any ideas, let me know. So that's it. That is the end of of the book year tag done, and I am really looking forward to this next month and a half to wrap things up and get prepared for 2025 as far as our reading year goes. And I'm really curious if you could leave in the comments your answers to these questions, or if there are any fun videos that you have seen of other booktubers that have done this tag. Let me know and I will go watch them and support them on there as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. And until we read again, bye.